Tuned into the Ashraf Garda Show.
So I had this fascinating, well, you know that we've been covering the story over the last few days regarding certain issues with regards to the financial statements of Eskom, where they did not have to present irregular expenditure and other things along that line in their financial statements, but they had to do that in the annual report. And there's been this massive response to it of criticism, and the more Treasury or the minister may have explained it, and the more even the acting DG at Treasury explained it, that the less convincing they were to me, and speaking to other analysts to say, I still don't get it, because it does suggest, it opens up an avenue that says we are effectively lessening our auditing systems, which I think South Africa by and large thrives on and strives on as a world-class country when it comes to doing things like that, right? But the world is strange. What seemed like a given a couple of days ago has changed. So I have to tell you, I'm on a WhatsApp group together with Wayne Duvenage from OUTA, and then I get pleasantly surprised yesterday morning. Wayne posted to say, "Hey guys, you know what? There's been a change regarding these exclusions." And there's a rethink around that, and spoke at length about civil activism. So let's find out more about it from a representative from OUTA, the advocate Stefanie Fick, with me, the executive director of the Accountability and Public Governance Division at OUTA. Advocate Stefanie Fick, appreciate your time. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Now, yes, 24 hours is a long, long time in South Africa, as we have clearly discovered. What has happened between, last week, Friday, which is a week tomorrow, and over the few days where Treasury went at length to explain the decisions taken, and then suddenly yesterday, some changes occurred. What has happened there?
I think that we have seen civil society at work. We've seen civil activism at work. The pressure was put on government saying this decision of yours are just irrational, and it doesn't make sense. It's not good for transparency. Something we really need currently with our current situation, etc., etc. So I really think what we've seen is government realizing if civil society and other groupings makes their voices heard, they better listen. And it's always good to take hands with civil society. I think we have some good ideas. And if you wanted to eradicate corruption, these types of decisions, like you don't have to report your irregular and fruitless wasteless expenditure, are not good.
Let's just talk about the role of civil society firstly. So, yes, I mean, many of the media, including this channel, Salam Media, and many others, certainly carried the criticism, right? But is that as far as civil society went, meaning people like organizations like OUTA, yourself, or Wayne Duvenage went public and voiced criticism? Or was there a more concerted campaign? And did that campaign go directly to Treasury, or was it simply done in the media spaces?
We were on our way. I think, Wayne, for example, we wanted to make this more formal because we were starting to think maybe this is something that we should legally challenge. But I really think it was just the discourse. I mean, it was not just civil society. I mean, I think it started with civil society. But we are lucky in this country that we have we have a good constitution, but we also have freedom of speech. We have the media that picks up on these, discussions. I think this was one of those issues. It's as if all of South Africa came together and said, but we are not happy with this decision. There were discussions, and like you have rightly said, the more they try to explain it, the less it makes sense. So I really think it was people coming together, whether other organizations wrote formal letters. I mean, we were literally be writing that letter, and then they withdraw this decision. So
now, what I noticed also, and just to get clarity on this one here, because I heard the acting DG Ismail this morning on radio, he made the point that in fact, so let's put it this way: there was the privilege granted to Eskom to exclude irregularities from being reported in the financial statements, but they had to be reported in the annual report. Okay, that's the one. Now, what I understand, as per yesterday, that privilege has been closed, right? And this is a big but, the Minister of Finance will take it to Parliament on review. That means it's up for consultation. So it's not a case of it's closed forever. They may still come back in and reinstate it.
Yeah, and I don't know if that was a way of just trying to spin this whole decision and just noting that we realized that it was the wrong decision. We need to consult. Why they didn't consult in the first place is also a question, because public consultation is extremely important. But I wonder if it wasn't a way of saving face, because why would this be a good idea in 2 months' time, in 4 months' time? What it does, because they don't have to report this in the annual statement, is that the Auditor General do not audit it. The integrated annual report is not statutory an obligation. And then it just starts. Then the question just starts, why don't you want to report your irregular and wasteful expenditure? Because isn't that a way to understand what the problem is, if you can see it? And then the biggest question for me is, why is there irregular, wasteful and fruitless expenditure in the first place? Shouldn't you fix that problem?
Yeah, good point. Now, I mean, so you're quite right. I mean, but here's the bizarre thing. What was a good idea on Friday last week suddenly became a bad idea yesterday. And if they're saying consultation, does it become a good idea next week or whenever they reconvene in Parliament? I mean, it just sounds rather bizarre, and maybe it's a way of saving face. We shall see. But what is interesting about it from your side, right, as an organization that effectively plays a critical role around tax abuse, do you think that in your understanding around this, the rationale did actually open itself up to tax abuse, meaning that whether it is a private company or in this case a state-owned enterprise like Eskom or Transnet may be, that their profits then are taxable and they come out of public coffers, and that's the issue that you're concerned about. And do you see that this opened itself up to tax abuse?
I do think so. You know, what we are always worried about is, an organization like Eskom and Transnet is, get their funding from the fiscus. And how do we calculate what's coming into the fiscus? That is each and every South African that pays into that fund. Taxpayers. If you eat, you are a taxpayer. So it is each and every one of us. And what we are very, as an organization, concerned about is that taxes are used for the right reasons, because we've seen, because of corruption, because of irregular and wasteful expenditure, there's less money in the fiscus, and that's why we have so many social problems. There's still a divide, in our societies. We still struggle with electricity. We complain about load shedding, but there's communities that do not have any. So many. There's so many. We can keep on talking about the problems. But why do you want to hide something? So I have stopped trying to figure out what the government's thinking was. I mean, I think it will drive one insane, and their reasoning just doesn't make sense. But what I think we can all agree on is, why on earth do you want to do this? And if you want to do this because you think you're going to get international funding, which international funder or local funder wants to give you funding if you're going to hide your irregular and wasteful expenditure? And whether your irregular and wasteful expenditure is based on corruption doesn't matter. It is expenditure that could have, if it were used wisely, could have made a difference.
Yeah, I mean, that's precisely the point. I mean, the suggestion, it also came through that the suggestions actually came from foreign funders in the first place, as bizarre, or foreign lenders. And that sounds rather bizarre to say. At least if the Auditor General doesn't have to flag certain things, then it makes it easier for us to either fund you or lend you, monies, however bizarre that is, right? Perhaps let's just end with this, Advocate Stefanie Fick. What's the big lesson to learn from what has happened this week?
Well, we need to be vigilant. I think that what we've seen with state capture and this sheer amount of corruption. I mean, we were also busy yesterday with this whole state of disaster that was also all of a sudden after 2 months, it doesn't seem like a good idea anymore, is that we still need to be extremely vigilant, because we are losing an enormous amount of, money, to illegal, unlawful, irregular expenditure, and that we cannot keep our eyes off the ball. I think as civil society, as the media, there's a huge responsibility on us. Then, yes, government needs to be criticized if they do not govern in the best interest of South Africa, but it's also to take hands and make South Africa better. And if these type of things happen, we're not going to move forward. We're not going to get our economic situation better, because we need the rand to have better values so that we can create jobs for everybody, so that we can just live a basic life. And really, what I think it told me is that we have a vital role to play this new democracy in South Africa, and that we are so important. People should not stop, having a voice, because the pressure that one can put on government to make the right decisions, we've seen it. It is possible.
Absolutely. Well, I completely agree with you. I think OUTA does some fabulous work, and well done, not just to you guys at OUTA, but certainly everybody else. And I think here's the point, just to wrap up with Stefanie, certainly where I sit as heading up a project called Champion South Africa, with a move to drive South Africa into becoming a champion nation. It doesn't mean that if you're patriotic, as I certainly am, that you can't be critical. In fact, being critical may well be the most patriotic thing you can do for your country, keeping your country and governance on a national stage in check is the great purpose that we as South Africans are the cause that we need to be championing. So appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thanks for all the hard work that you also do. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. There we are. Advocate Stefanie Fick from OUTA. That position on Eskom has changed. Let's see what next week brings. And maybe that is a necessary segue into our next segment with Ashraf Gangulakar. It's all about thoughtful actions.